Morning, welcome in SimWorld today, April 17th, as I always am on Wednesdays, joined in the booth this morning by Siege. Siege, good morning. How are we feeling?
Good morning. Happy hump day. We're feeling great. Ready for hump day.
Well, we're not feeling great in Golden State as the Golden State Warriors crumble and fall apart, and the sky is falling as the Warriors go out in a SimWorld BA opening night of the play-in tournament. Not in the playoffs yet because these teams don't all deserve to be there. But the more engaging and the more interesting game was in New Orleans last night, Siege, where the New Orleans Pelicans rally from down 18 and still can't get the job done with Zion Williamson leaving early with an injury. The Lakers are on now to face the Denver Nuggets in the opening round of the SWBA playoffs.
Yeah, I said it before the game, and I'll keep saying it. I wasn't ready to bet against LeBron. I might be in the Nuggets series, probably am, but the 50-year-old LeBron looked really good last night. This Pelicans team is really good. They have a lot of talent, but they're very young. They're very young. I think if they went up against another team that maybe didn't have a LeBron, didn't have an Anthony Davis, maybe was also a little bit of a younger team, I think they would have stood more of a chance. But LeBron wasn't going out in the play, and he wasn't going out sad like that. So it was a good game. They put up a good fight, but yeah, we'll get to see LeBron do his best against the Denver Nuggets and Jokic and see if he can maybe win a couple of games there.
Yeah, it's an unsurprising outcome because you're right. In a one-game playoff, I'm not picking against LeBron James. I'm just not going to do that. That's a poor take and a bad idea because late in these games he just has this ability to just hit shots. I mean, time and time again in closeout scenarios, which a playing game falls under, he just hits great shots. I mean, he hit a big three, hit fadeaway jumpers every time, and it happened a lot. The Pelicans tied it. He answered in some capacity. Against Denver, though, that's Denver's the best team in basketball. I don't care what the metrics say about Boston. Denver's the best team. I get they got Anthony Davis out there, and he's going to be able to play up against Nikola Jokic. I don't care. It's still Nikola Jokic. It's Aaron Gordon. It's Jamal Murray. Did we really think the Pelicans were a good basketball team? They've been telling us for the last couple of months that they're not, especially at home. I think they lost the last 6 games. The broadcast last night would not let you forget that. It's a good start for New Orleans. Assuming Zion's healthy, they've got a shot at the 8 seed. But this is, like you said, it's a young basketball club that just wasn't going to be able to go toe-to-toe for the Lakers. Do you think the Lakers, you mentioned you might not pick against them against Denver. Do you think they have a shot against Denver?
You know, I'll never say that LeBron doesn't have a shot. Would I pick them? No. Like you said, I think Denver's the best basketball team in the world right now. Jokic is arguably the best player in the world right now, and Anthony Davis is a good defender, but is he going to be on the floor for the majority of the game for however long the series goes? That's kind of my question. And even when he is the best defender in the world, Jokic is still probably going to get his. So no, I'm not picking against Denver in that one because I think, like you said, LeBron is the ultimate example of being able to flip that switch, of basketball
Mm-hmm.
players who can flip that switch. He flips that switch when he gets into the playoffs. That being said, you got to keep it close towards the end of the game for him to hit those kind of shots. My concern is that some of the games won't be close at the end of the game for LeBron to get the chance
Yeah.
to hit those shots. So, no, I'm going to take the Nuggets in this one. But LeBron, I think, wins 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, this isn't going to be a sweep. I think, the worst case scenario is what it looks like last season, where it's kind of it was a sweep, but every game was coming down to the wire. The challenges for the Lakers. The Nuggets have guys that can counter your shots. At no point last night were you watching that game, especially once Zion went out, where you're like, okay, Pelicans, this is how they get into their action and get a shot. The Nuggets have multiple ways to do that. We'll head to Golden State next, which, man, this is a tough morning. But I'll tell you what, this was a morning that you could see on the horizon glowing like the morning sun. This was not a good Warriors team. You look at just the disparity in the number of shot makers, and the Kings were loaded with them. Keegan Murray gets rolling. Keon Ellis gets rolling. Sabonis and Fox, obviously. Harrison Barnes. That's just luxuries that the Warriors didn't have all season. I would not have picked the War, or I wouldn't have expected the Warriors to make a long run, and honestly, last night's result did not surprise me at all. Steph Curry played well. Moses Moody does his perpetual, I'm going to show up in the playoffs because Steve Kerr doesn't play me in the regular season. But I'll ask you this, Siege. Do you think the dynasty is over?
Yeah, yeah. I think dynasty, by the definition of dynasty, is over. I think the Warriors will still be a team that's fun to watch as long as Steph is there. I think Clay departs for Orlando this offseason, and that's the thing. I think everyone's been waiting to call the dynasty over because they've still got that big three, that iconic big three that carried them through so many years, that has been really what Golden State Warriors is that big three of Clay, Draymond, and Steph. But I think he leaves for Orlando this offseason. And even if he doesn't, I think the dynasty's over. I don't know if everyone's ready to say it, but it was a good run. It was a long run. It was a very long run. But I think this is the changing of the guard. We're seeing young teams at the top of the Western Conference, Minnesota, Oklahoma City. This Kings team, for some reason, is in the play-in, but this is a really good young team. So we're kind of seeing that changing of the guard, other than the Denver Nuggets still sitting atop the West and being the best team in basketball. It was a good run. The dynasty's over.
Well, Siege, the dynasty's been over. The dynasty ended in 2022. The moment this team started making the play-in is when the dynasty ended. They have been admirably protective of a system that is built around Steph Curry, and that has worked. And it's worked in large part because Klay Thompson would hit 40% from deep. He would score 18 to 20 points per game. He would do what Keegan Murray did last night, hit 7, 8 3-pointers, and you would make big shots and big buckets, and you would win a lot of games. That has not been the case. Now, look, Klay Thompson, I don't think he's leaving, to be quite honest with you. There's way too much desire within, I imagine, himself with what he has said throughout the year and what the team has said throughout the season. If he leaves for Orlando for, let's say, $7 million more than what the Warriors choose to offer him, and I think last night cost him millions of dollars from what he had kind of recouped over his recent stretch, I just don't see him walking out the door. I know the Warriors are very interested in getting below the luxury tax line to try to reset the financial obligations of this team, but I would be shocked if Klay Thompson departs for more money in a place like Orlando. I know that's the rumor. I know that's what everyone wants to talk about. But I just don't think he's leaving. And Draymond can't leave. I mean, he's got 3 years, $75 million left. You could say all you want that you think he should leave, that the Warriors should move on from him. But he proved last night he's still a really great center in the SWBA, particularly next to reliable vertical centers that could play next to him. This team needs more shooters, but not shooters, rather scorers who can do it on their own. I think Jonathan Kuminga is the pathway to it. I think everyone knows my opinion of him. But to the Kings, Pelicans now for the 8 seed. Any opinions on that one?
That should be a good game. Again, I kept talking about the young teams out west. Both of these teams are really good, talented young teams. I'm excited to see kind of the matchups that come out of this. If Zion can stay on the floor healthy the whole game, I think the Pelicans have a chance. They do have the best defender in the SWBA in Herb Jones, so that's always an asset. If I'm gonna give you an official take, I'm gonna take the Kings. I think they're it this year. Not it, but I think they're the best of the play-in teams, personally, in terms of a full scope view. So I'm gonna take the Kings. I'm
gonna take the Pels. Although it's a weird look that Zion Williamson leaves with an injury, misses the final couple minutes of a game, and then walks out without a noticeable limp. That doesn't make me feel super good about that. We're going to move on, though. SimWorld Prep, the return of Dre Pope last night. It comes in a loss spoiled by Almighty Soul and the H-Town Hoopers. Big night from Almighty Soul, as he has been the anchor of this group. What went right last night for H-Town? I believe you were on the call on this one, Siege, if I get my broadcast partners lined up. What went right in this one for H-Town?
Yeah, I mean, H-Town did what they've been doing all season. They're not a big shooting team. They don't take a lot of shots from beyond the arc, and they didn't last night. They took 8 threes. That's it. Honestly, that was surprising to me. But what they did was what they're good at, and they pounded it inside. And as we know, Bay Area Breakers are lacking in size after the recent chaos that's been going on. They took advantage of that. They went down low. Almighty Saul was in the mid range, 1-on-1. You had Corey Yams just eating up anyone who was trying to match up with him 1-on-1. Tyrell Thompson had himself a good game. The big men were feasting last night for H-Town, and they did a good job of Bay Area wanted to get out and run with them. Kind of, use that size disadvantage as an advantage. But H-Town did a great job of getting back in transition defense, doing everything they could to not let them get those open transition looks. This H-Town team is a good team. I know they've struggled, but if they can keep playing to their strengths, getting inside, and maybe have one or two guys get hot from three, this is a team to worry about.
Yeah, Mighty Soul's capable of doing the type of thing that's necessary to get big wins throughout the race to one. Although a big night last night from Adonis Knight, second straight 30-point outing, which helps power Bay Area despite the loss. I think this is going to be a real challenge the rest of the way, regardless of the number of players on the roster for Bay Area. It's just a group that's going to be challenged inside, like you mentioned. Without that size, if Adonis Knight continues to play well, that's going to be a huge positive for them in finding a guy that can get rolling. But it's going to be difficult because everywhere this team goes, there's going to be a circus, right? It's not as if you've got an injury and you just want to move on, like your Southeast Select, right? You lose Orvin Carballo early in the season. Let's just move on. Let's get our guys in spots to win. This is a group that you're going to see the roster is depleted. You're going to know they're missing their number one guy. You're going to know that whatever the result of the investigation is, there's this dark cloud that follows Dre Pope around, whether he likes to admit it or not. That's not going to be easy to deal with throughout the rest of the SimWorld Prep season and into the race to one. I mean, could they get rolling and get a win? Sure, I think that Bay Area could. But if you look at those two teams, H-Town to me is the group that if you said, hey, somebody's making a run, I think H-Town's a very viable candidate to be able to do that in the race to one. That wasn't our only game of the week, though. As we head to our SimWorld Prep wrap up, we had I think 6 games rolling last night. We tipped off at 7 p.m. with Run DMV. Keith Singleton looks great in that one. 23 points. Hits a pair of threes. Not his game, and it's a 69-63 win for Run DMV at home.
Moving on, Oceania traveled to take on Bad Boys Basketball. Damian Lofi had a sensational game, 28 points on over 60% shooting. Oceania walked out with a 74-68 victory.
No huge scoring games in ATS Lone Star, but a big win regardless for SimWorld ATS and head coach Tomas Kusa. They get their 15th win of the season. They're 69-61 over Lone Star.
Indy Stripes traveled to take on the ATLians. Lee Alaric with one of his best games of his career, 20 points, 5 assists on 60% shooting, led Indy Stripes to an 81-74 victory.
So much for the good vibes around South America as Gulf Coast blasts them 87-50. Career night from Kai Killens, 34 points, his career high. 10 assists from Carson Cutbirth, 21 points from Avery Cooks. And then, of course, the Bay Area game, our last one, 76-69 H-Town win. We dove into that. We're back on the SimWorld schedule today on Wednesday night. Lone Star, H-Town, our game of the week. The Hoopers try to string some things together against their in-state rival on the 9 p.m. Rocky Mountain 3-game winning streak. Don't sleep on it. Going up against Best Coast Ballers in Santa Barbara. Both those games on SimWorld TV. Thanks for tuning in today, Siege. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow morning to recap some SimWorld prep action as well as night 2 of the SWBA play-in. We will talk to you then.